Good evening, everyone. We are so pleased that you have chosen to join us for this Dean's Welcome, hosted by the College of Arts and Letters and the Residential College in the Arts and Humanities. I am sure that many, if not all of us, have spent in some cases what has felt like an overwhelming amount of time in these virtual spaces. And so keeping that in mind, we are so grateful that you have decided to engage with us in this way. As a point of information, this webinar is being recorded, but you will not be shown on the recording. This also includes your comments and questions in the Q&A function. My name is LaDonna Croft, and I am the recruitment coordinator for the College of Arts and Letters here at Michigan State University. And before we dive in, I'd like to give you an idea of what you can expect during our time together. So you will, of course, hear from the Dean of the College of Arts and Letters, Chris Long, as well as the Dean of Residential College in the Arts and Humanities, Steve Esquith. We also have joining us Alison Fox, career consultant for the Residential College in the Arts and Humanities, along with Dan Meyer, director of the Excel Network in the College of Arts and Letters. So Allie and Dan will speak with you about the vast career and experiential learning opportunities that your student will have in our colleges. We also have Terence Brown from MSU Admissions and Amanda Moss from Residence Education and Housing Services with us as well. And they will talk with you a bit later about your questions regarding financial aid, scholarships, and housing. Now, you will notice a Q&A button on the bottom of your screen. I encourage you to utilize this function as you have questions, as we will endeavor to address these this evening. Keep in mind that it's possible that some of your questions may be answered directly in the Q&A function, okay? So before we get going, I would love to introduce you to Ramirez, my colleague from the Residential College in the Arts and Humanities, who will speak with you about some of the very crucial things your students will gain with a major in our college. Rugi?
Yeah, thank you, LaDonna, and welcome again, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Rugi Ramirez, and I have a pretty amazing role within the Residential College in the Arts and Humanities. I serve as a recruitment coordinator and an academic advisor. Cal and Arca represent the arts and humanities at MSU, and both of us are dedicated to ensuring that students not only succeed after graduation, but have one-of-a-kind experiences along the way before they cross that graduation stage. So whether your student is exploring one of the many majors inside of Cal or looking forward to experiencing the living learning community of Arca, I want to assure you that there is value in your student having a passion for the arts and humanities. Throughout human history, we've used philosophy, literature, religion, art, and music to better understand our world. Because of this, the arts and humanities often show us where we've been and help us envision where we're going. Rarely in life is an exact math equation the solution for those larger global problems. When a student chooses to major in the liberal arts or in the arts and humanities, they're choosing to be equipped and prepared to be successful in virtually any career field. All students in our colleges have access to an education and experiences that'll make them effective writers and communicators, creative problem solvers, globally and culturally aware, critical thinkers, and of course, skilled collaborators. The best part of all this is that they find their purpose and develop their skills while pursuing something they truly love and enjoy. The arts and humanities hold great value in the future success of our communities, and maybe most importantly, in the future success of your students, which is why we're excited to have you here tonight, and of course to answer your questions as you're either looking forward to starting in the fall or as you're looking to make that final decision about MSU and our colleges being the right place for your student in the fall.
Thank you so much, Rugi. In fact, where you ended, I think is a perfect opportunity for our deans to come in. Again, we have Dean Steve Esquith from the Residential College in the Arts and Humanities, and we also have Dean Chris Long from the College of Arts and Letters, and we appreciate you both for being here with us this evening. Now, as a start, will you share with us why an education in the arts and humanities is valuable? Rugi talked a bit about it, but we would love for you to expound on that. Dean Esquith, why don't you get that conversation started for us?
Thanks, LaDonna, and thanks, Rugi, for the nice introduction. Chris Long and I are going to try to give you a framework for thinking about this big question How are the arts and humanities valuable in our current world and why? So I'm going to do a bit of a framework to start us off and then hand it off to Chris, and then we'll create a duet here and go a little deeper. In Cal and in Arca, which is how we say College of Arts and Letters and Residential College in the Arts and Humanities, students not only study the arts and humanities, but they also learn about them by making and doing. In other words, they're fully engaged in their learning. It's practical, experiential, and collaborative learning with other students and a wide range of campus, local, and global partners that's sustained and prepares students to be lifelong learners. So that's point one. If you're sort of taking notes, framework, point one. Point two, and this is slightly different, is that in Cal and Arca, students learn in these ways within a caring environment in which they can care about the well-being of others and themselves. I should say they can continue to care about the well-being of others and themselves. They work closely with faculty to plan their academic programs, and they work with professional advisors from the very start to plan carefully for their future careers. So, general framework, point two. Point three, in Cal and Arca, students have the opportunity to address complex topics, issues, and problems through interdisciplinary courses and multidisciplinary programs. This is true whether they're studying languages and cultures that are constantly evolving, or art that draws upon new forms of expression. So this is a general framework for thinking about that big question that LaDonna posed. How and why are the arts and humanities valuable in the world today? Just to summarize, they prepare us for engaged lifelong learning. They prepare us to live in a caring environment, and they prepare us to understand complex problems through interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary lenses. Chris and I will now go into a bit more depth to show you just how robust and exciting the arts and humanities at MSU in particular are, and how we sort of move the needle on those three big items. Chris?
Yeah. Thanks, Steve. It's really a pleasure to be with everyone today. Thanks for coming to talk to us tonight. And LaDonna and Rugi, a great introduction to the session this evening. I feel like you've really captured the spirit of what we're trying to do in the arts and humanities here at MSU. And thanks, Steve, for that framework. One of the things that we talk a lot about and try to put into concrete practice in our curriculum and in the extracurricular experience our students receive is to really provide a holistic approach to education for our students. Students are coming to MSU with maybe a sense of what they might want to do, with a general sense of their interest. And we hope that they are able to find a pathway to their own contribution in the world. And we do that by giving them experiences, as Steve mentioned. The days of thinking about the arts and humanities as kind of sequestered in a library doing work with books, those days are over. Obviously, the arts have always been about making, and the humanities now too are really focused on addressing some of the grand challenges of our time. And one of the things we work very hard to do with our students is to ask them to think reflectively about what they care most deeply about. And then we give them opportunities to put those values and those ideals that they have into practice in the world, so that they can create a more just and meaningful life, not only for themselves here at MSU, but also for the communities that they engage as they move out into the world and they graduate and chart a meaningful course for their lives. We talk a lot about a liberal arts education, and a liberal arts education really is about creating a meaningful life. And that is a holistic project. It is a lifelong project, and it is a project that many of you as students are already on your pathway toward. And we here at MSU are excited to help you find further depth and meaning in that pursuit.
Right. I really like the way you framed it in terms of, or added to the framework by talking about a holistic perspective and giving students a chance to sort of pursue their passion. I would add to that passion, because I think the arts and humanities majors really, work with faculty and staff who are equally passionate. Adding to that passion is curiosity, right? That, the arts and humanities are, I think, famous, not infamous, but famous for being curious about what's around the corner. What's the next way in which we can sort of address through the arts, sort of imagine a new solution? We often say, think outside of the box. The arts and humanities don't just get us outside of the box, they get us to turn around and look at that box again and say, well, maybe I can rotate it. Maybe I can see it from a different angle. So that curiosity combined with the passion that Chris was talking about really, I think, define not just our students, but our faculty and our staff. So you have a community that is there, a supportive community. So I guess that would be, where I would go, Chris, and invite you to think about community and caring environment, and how both in Cal and in Arca, students are not just left to their own passions and curiosities, but they have partners in that enterprise. Maybe you'd like to say a word or two about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to talk a little bit about that. We've done a lot of thinking in both colleges about how we're supporting our students through their experience at MSU, and then as they think more broadly about their life course as well. And so, we know that that transition to college is transformative. I know for me, it was both something I look very much forward to, and also, to be honest with you, had quite a bit of an anxiety about, and was not, it was not something that was just smooth sailing. So we try to put the infrastructure in place through our advisors. We have done some investments in mental health services for our students, and so that they can navigate their way into this world of MSU effectively. And then, as Steve mentioned, the faculty are just totally committed to the student well-being. And you will find the faculty in the arts and humanities across MSU between both colleges really engaged with students and committed to learning from them as well as teaching them. And we have many opportunities for participatory research with our students. And what's exciting about those research endeavors is that there's opportunities both to participate in the research that faculty are doing, but also to have the students being the leaders of their own research and investigation, and with the faculty supporting them along the way. So there's a really dynamic and dialogical approach to the discovery endeavor aspects of the arts and humanities.
Yeah, that interaction between faculty and staff and students is critical for nurturing the passion, the curiosity, and the planning that goes into an academic career. Chris mentioned his anxiety going off to college. I shared that a little earlier than he did. My parents gave me a suitcase and a Greyhound bus ticket, and they said, "See you at Thanksgiving." I don't think they were kicking me out of the house, but they were as anxious as I was. And I know that the separation between students and families is always a big step. And I suspect the Greyhound bus isn't the only vehicle to get to campus anymore. But that's something that our faculty, our staff, people like Rugi and LaDonna, and the other folks you'll meet are really tuned into. It's a caring environment. Rugi, I see
thank you.
on the tip of your tongue.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And I think that's the part LaDonna and I love, is that interaction and building that relationship with students. And although we serve in advisory roles, those faculty are right there alongside it. As families were registering, we also saw questions coming in, of course, related to COVID-19. and a lot of them centered around what arrangements are being made by the university for in-person learning for the fall in light of COVID-19. Dean Long, if you want to start, can you kind of help families know what to expect or what changes are in the way?
Yes, I appreciate that question, Rugi. We've been through quite a year and now a month or so of this, and it's been a pretty intense challenge for everyone involved. And we have placed the health and safety of our students and our faculty and our staff at the center of our decision making for navigating this pandemic period. It is good when you have somebody who, as the president of the university, who has a background in virology, and so that is a very helpful thing, because he is able to help us understand the science behind all of what's going on. But we also know that, you know, in addition to the science, there's a lot of social and cultural aspects to this that we were mindful of. So for the fall, we have the full intention of being as much in person as we possibly can. We are committed to creating a robust and vibrant campus life in the fall, and our faculty and staff, I can tell you, are really ready to be back together in physical spaces. I was on campus yesterday for a few minutes, and I was just so happy to actually see people physically after so many months of Zoom and video conferencing. So there's a lot of excitement about coming back in the fall, some anxiety as well around making sure that we have as many people vaccinated as possible. There's a strong effort going on now, both on campus and then, you know, locally around Michigan for vaccinations, and I think we're moving pretty aggressively at that on that. One of the things that we've learned over the course of the pandemic is that the faculty have learned, actually become pretty impressively skilled at flexible pedagogy. So, you know, being able to move between in-person experiences to online experiences, you know, we may need, depending on what the fall brings, to make a shift like that at some point. And if we are, we'll be able to navigate that effectively. And the faculty, because of this year where we had to, I mean, it was pretty amazing. We had the announcement, I think, at 10 a.m. on that Wednesday, I think March 13th or something like that last year, where they said, okay, at noon we're going online. That was a pretty bold move, and so our faculty have actually become pretty sophisticated in their ability to do that. But our hope and our expectation is that we are going to have an amazing in-person experience come the fall.
Yeah, I think, Chris, that's a really good summary of where we've been and where we're headed. I can offer another first-person example, having taught both in the fall and in the spring online. I can testify that it was a steep learning curve initially. But during the spring, both the faculty and the students became more accustomed to interacting. So I think there will be some carryover from the online modalities that we've learned, and will be integrating into our pedagogy in the coming fall. And there are, you know, in Arca at least, people who are bridging that experience over the summer. So we have small informal learning groups, and, you know, the Arca community is one that doesn't sort of stop at the classroom door. And I know there are many student groups and faculty groups in Cal where the same kind of activity goes on after class is over. And so faculty are concerned, not just did you get your homework done and what'd you get on the test, but what are you doing now to use this knowledge that you've gained in other ways. And so that sort of community in informal learning spaces and more formal groups in both colleges, I think is really sustaining students over the summer, and will, I think, create a welcoming environment. And I guess I'd underline that. that arts and humanities in Cal and in Arca, are distinctive at MSU. I'm not going to sort of make any invidious comparisons to other colleges, but they're distinctive in the welcoming environment that they create for our students coming back and new students. And it's because of that, ability to keep the conversation going after class is over. Those conversations are absolutely critical for the kind of research that Chris was talking about. The curiosity and the creativity doesn't end, when class is over. So the environment, whether it's a community within the four walls of Snyder-Phillips or in the Broad lab across the street from the Broad that Cal and Cal faculty have helped to develop, or in the hub where Cal faculty are working on digital humanities projects. Those things really make for a community of communities. I know that sounds redundant, but it's intentionally redundant. A community of communities that I think helps our students see where they can sort of work together to collaborate across disciplines, which may take us to point number 3, interdisciplinary and wasn't that an amazing segue?
That was good, but I got to interrupt you for a sec there, Steve, because now my dog is going nuts, but that's Darcy. She wants you to come to MSU for sure. And she may be barking a second here, but there was a question there, Steve, about the COVID-19 vaccine and whether that's going to be required or not. And so right now, I will say that the vaccine is not being required. Basically, we have one of the challenges is that the vaccine, because it has an emergency approval, is really more difficult to require of people. And so my understanding of what the president's position on this at the moment is that vaccines won't be required. They will be encouraged. We do have the flu vaccine as a recommendation, and I know that students are told that they need it. But I don't know, to be perfectly honest with you, that we have a great follow-up on that. So the fact of the matter is we need as many people vaccinated as possible. And we have been very intentional in the university about trying to address the issues around COVID-19 from a kind of culture standpoint, namely setting the expectations, kind of modeling behavior that we need to have around mask wearing, around distancing, and around all the safety protocols as our responsibility to one another to make sure we're taking care of each other. And I'm confident that we'll probably still have mask wearing on campus for most of the fall, even with a very robust population of vaccinated people. So my anticipation on this is that we will not have a vaccine mandate, but that it will be highly encouraged. And there will be, as there already are on campus now, opportunities to get vaccinated on campus.
Right. In terms of safety and sort of caring for one another in a space like the residential college space in Snyder-Phillips, we have other informal sort of rooms and activities besides just the classroom. And so students, I think, are, very committed to maintaining that kind of safety, even outside the classroom, so that we have, a university that's safe, right? Not just a safe classroom. How are we doing on time?
No, I was just going to say, thanks so much. Again, as registrations were coming in and questions were coming in, they really centered around those two, kind of the support and the experience students can have in the colleges, and of course, rightfully so, the COVID kind of response the universities having. You folks are doing a great job sending in questions, and the team is responding to them in the chat. But on that note, I want to thank Dean Esquith and Dean Long for being here. They were still sticking with us the whole night, so if questions come up and they think they can handle them in the chat, we'll definitely have them do that. Or at the end, of course, they'll be able to answer some more of those. But thank you both so much for those responses, and I'll turn it over to LaDonna.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Rogi, and thank you again, Dean Long and Dean Esquith. We truly appreciate the care and the concern that each of you are taking in regards to our students. And now what we want to do now is switch gears just a little bit, because you also had lots of questions about careers and experiential learning. And so, as I mentioned earlier, Allie Fox and Dan Meyer are both here with us, and they are going to talk with us about the amazing career and experiential learning opportunities that your student will have here with us at Michigan State University. So Allie, Dan, why don't you all start with telling us about the work that you do?
Thank you so much, LaDonna. So excited to be here this evening with you all. Thanks for joining us. We've got a lot of information to cover, but also mindful of time. But Allie and I just wanted to first introduce ourselves briefly and then roll into a few slides to offer just some visuals of how we support students through their pathway at MSU and beyond, through career readiness, experiential learning opportunities, and alumni to student engagement for all of our undergrads. So my name is Dan Meyer. I'm the director of the Excel Network in the College of Arts and Letters here at MSU and a proud MSU alum. And the Excel Network just briefly focuses on combining kind of the three pillars of career readiness and support, experiential learning opportunities, those hands-on, outside of the classroom, field-based experiences such as internships, study abroad, study away, research, community engagement, and so on. And then alumni to student engagement, making sure we open up those networks for our students. So with that, I will hand over to Allie to introduce yourself, and then we'll head into the slides and then take questions as we have time from the audience.
Thanks, Dan. Hi, everyone. I'm Alison Fox. I am the career consultant for the Residential College in the Arts and Humanities, which means I help students with everything from figuring out what on earth they want to do with their life through one-on-one advising appointments, classroom visits, designing experiential learning, and working closely with employers. As we were getting ready today, LaDonna and Rugi gave us a couple of questions to guide our time. So I'm going to share my screen to give you a visual to walk you through a little bit about what we do. All right, how are we doing? You got that? All right, excellent. And let me just get everything set here. All right, so to get started, we were asked to consider how an academic major impacts career, right? This is a huge question for students, isn't it? I like to think about this question from the perspective of employers, right? Because they're the ones doing the hiring after all. From the employer perspective, your academic major doesn't actually matter all that much. There are less than 20% of jobs available at the bachelor's level that require a specific academic degree. And these are pre-professional programs. You can probably guess them. Things like nursing, engineering, accounting. The title of the major is often the job. So that means that for over 80% of the jobs available at the bachelor's level, your college major is not the priority to employers. Your degree is important, going to college is important, but for 80% of jobs, what you study exactly is not. So this begs the question, right? If your major isn't the priority, what is? Well, we rely on data to answer this question. We have thousands of employer partners at MSU. We track their hiring. We also work closely with the National Association of Colleges and Employers and the Collegiate Employment Research Institute. Between them both, they survey over 7,000 employers every year, asking them about their plans to hire soon-to-be grads. And these two units tell us about what they want. And they tell us exactly what they want, which are skills, which we have outlined right here, and experiences. Make it very easy for us, right? So how does this translate to career development in the arts and humanities at MSU? So in the case of both Arca and Cal, our curriculums are very skill development focused, not only on developing them, but teaching students how to articulate them, to consider their audience when they're talking about their experiences and skills. And many of these skills are developed in the classroom format itself. For example, communications. We've got small discussion-based classes where students can take the lead in determining their project or paper topics. They present information using a range of modalities. And then skills are also developed through the experiential learning that's either built into the curriculum or available for students to engage in. One of the things I appreciated Dean Esquith and Dean Long talking about was how the liberal arts prepares students to be adaptive, to be creative problem solvers, to be lifelong learners. The average college grad will have 12 different jobs between graduation and retirement. So there are likely many career transitions on the horizon for your student. So we aim to help students develop the ability to navigate that and to connect with work that will continue to feel meaningful throughout their working life. One indication of this reality of the professional readiness of the arts and humanities at MSU, and then also the reality of what employers actually value, is to look at the success of our graduates. So we can see that very clearly in our destination data or our placement rate. This is our survey where we assess where our students go when they graduate. So when they graduate, are they working? Are they going to grad school? Are they still seeking and trying to figure things out? So for Arca, for the history of the college and its existence, we have a 99% placement rate. And I know Cal is very close to that as well. These are higher numbers actually than what you will find in pre-professional degrees. And it's that combination of skill development that's built into the curriculum, the design of the classes, the experiential learning, that all plays into the reasons for that. On the next slide, Dan is going to share a little bit about how experiences are built into the curriculum and available to your students. But before we change slides, Dan, did you want to add anything here?
Yeah, thanks, Allie. Great job. Summing this up. It is such a large topic, and we're happy to delve in with questions and answers. I just wanted to point out just a quick tidbit. As you can tell, Allie and I like data, but a recent survey that came out from the Association of American Colleges and Universities, AAC&U, highly respected organization by employers and universities alike. 500 executives and hiring managers were asked about what skills and abilities they're looking for in college graduates. And a large amount of those skills and abilities that rose to the top were those obtained in a liberal arts degree program. So just a quick quote I wanted to share, particularly within the era that we're in with COVID-19 and the pandemic, but the lead at AAC&U had said, quote, "This has only increased the need for adaptability, problem solving, civic consciousness, and perseverance. And that they expect to see much more of this moving forward and not less. And that a liberal arts education fosters that adaptability and flexibility necessary to apply skills in a variety of contexts and respond to a rapidly changing world," which we all know was already rapidly changing, now on hyper rapid changing mode this past year. But just really setting our students and grads up for long-term success throughout their career trajectory. And lastly with that is they ended with liberal arts skills being the ticket up regardless of the profession. The further along in one's career arc, the more valuable liberal arts skills such as communication prove to be. So just goes back to the point that Allie was making of how we focus centrally on these competencies in order to allow for our students and grads to pivot, adapt, and thrive in the steps throughout their career path beyond MSU. All right, next slide, if we may. Okay, so we didn't want to talk about all of this without showing a few examples, snapshots of our amazing alumni, both in Arca and Cal, and we oftentimes have some majoring in both. So working in a variety of different industries, Allie and I could, I'm sure, take up the whole hour talking about the different alums in various industries doing amazing things, but we just wanted to point out 3 here for you today to get the conversation started. We also highlighted on this the experiential learning opportunities and involvement that they had both off campus and on campus that they participate in while in Cal or Arca. We included this for a reason. We wanted to show the importance of gaining this hands-on experience outside of the traditional classroom setting, which is something that Cal and Arca most definitely value and emphasize very heavily through both programs. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the next slide, but I wanted to point out how much we do emphasize that and encourage and support students to gain those hands-on skills and experiences so they're going to be successful for the long haul. So first, just really quickly, Terence Gibson, Global Studies in the Arts and Humanities major. Just a few things to point out, heavily involved in so many ways, but he was studied abroad multiple times, received a few large-scale national scholarships for study abroad. He also completed a few different internships in different sectors, as you can see, during his time at MSU. So made the most of that time. And that's one of the biggest pieces of experiential learning that employers are looking for. The biggest is that internship experience. So crucial for our students to be successful in those next steps in the workplace. He ended up applying that degree and his global understanding and interests actually right here in the United States. He now works with refugee populations on public health initiatives in Oklahoma and is pursuing his doctoral degree, also teaching and researching within the public health sector. So again, just goes to show how you can apply these degrees in various ways depending on your interests and the skills obtained during your time at MSU. I'm going to jump over to Kat and I'll let Ali touch on Emma. But Kat Palszewski is actually an intern who was near and dear to our hearts in Cal. She interned in our very own content studio in the college. This is a snippet for all of you students and parents out there. We do love hiring our own students for internships. So these internships can even be created within the college for positions. And I know Arca does the same. So Kat worked within our content studio and had other internships throughout the community and beyond to apply those skills for her professional and public writing degree. She also conducted and shared research at the MSU Undergraduate Research and Arts Forum, which is always a great experience for students to be able to have that different type of articulating your experience in a different venue, in a different arena, and advancing any research that students are working on. She also was heavily involved in leadership positions and now works for Facebook based out of London. And among other things, she's working with folks in the automotive industry to optimize their content and products on Facebook. So taking that writing degree, applying that with the specific experiences and skills that she obtained, and has actually come back and has met with students studying abroad in London. So she pays that forward as an alumni, which is always great to see. So just a couple examples there from Cal, and I'll turn it over to Ali to highlight Emma, and then we'll move on to our last slide.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Yeah, Dan and I were laughing about, how exactly do we choose here? And it was tough, but Emma is, you can read a little bit about what she was involved in right here. I do want to point out with the Arca community engagement that these are courses that are built into the curriculum where our students go out and partner with a nonprofit organization and work on really meaningful projects with that organization all semester long, and it reads like an internship on their resume. And I'm always thinking about how is it going to translate on their resume? How's it going to translate in an interview? It looks amazing that way. So a couple other things too that Emma was involved in that didn't make the cut on this list. She interned at our Wharton Center, which is our performing arts center. She was part of their Institute for Arts and Creativity. She was a proctor for Arca's art studio. So she helped students come in and learn to use the materials and shape their art projects. But the thing that got her interested in publishing, that really sort of shaped her in that direction, was working with Arca's Center for Poetry. They have a Wheelbarrow Press books, and she was a reader for them. And that's where she really grew her interest in editing. And I ended up picking Emma because I talked to her just last week. So many alums stay connected with Arca. It's that small residential model. It's very intentional. And frankly, we don't have an overwhelming number of students who are interested in publishing, but those that are all get to know Emma and get to know our other alums who are in publishing. And that's the case for any career field that our students are interested in exploring. And just like with Cal, they have the career communities and the Excel network. We're very, very intentional in getting our students partnered with alums. They get advice from them, they hear about opportunities, they get help preparing for their careers from the alumni recent alumni, older alumni. And I think this really emphasizes the way that we approach career development, which really is early on, you're going to explore. In your first year, you're exploring your interests, exploring your values, exploring the resources on campus, figuring things out, even if you think you have everything figured out. In your middle years, you're spending more time preparing. You're trying different things out. You're learning to write a resume and interview. You're trying out different internships and part-time jobs. And then that last couple of years is focused on connection and connecting to people, to organizations, and to opportunities. And that explore, prepare, connect model is one that we both follow really closely and that works really well with career development. So on this last page is a visual, just to sort of understand a little bit about the ways MSU students are supported in their career development. We have our two colleges. We are two colleges of many at MSU, and frankly, having all the extra support that comes from being part of such a large institution has amazing benefits for us. So the way career support is designed across MSU is that we have career experts in every college. I'm the career consultant with the residential college in the Arts and Humanities, which means I not only work for Arca, I also work with career services. So I have this dual line. I have all the support and knowledge that comes with the Career Services Network. I have colleagues to collaborate with in every college. So if your student is interested in, say, journalism or something that's outside of our colleges, we have a really easy line to get them connected to the internships, the support that exists over there. We also have all of the employer-specific knowledge for our college and spend a lot of time in one-on-one advising appointments, getting to know students and getting them connected. The next piece with the 17,000 on-campus student jobs, in many cases, these are very high-quality internships with different units on campus. It's undergraduate research as well, but so many of our students, just like you saw from the last slide, really get involved in the amazing work that's available on campus and within our own colleges. The career content that's embedded in our academic courses, it runs from the first year all the way through the senior year. The students cannot escape it no matter what. It's going to be part of their lives. And it's really something that we're very intentional about. This MSU job board with 30,000 internships and jobs, again, a benefit of being, some smaller units within a very, very large institution where we have employers coming to us saying, we want to hire your students, we want to hire your alums. Our students, after they graduate, will have access to this job board for 2 years after graduation as well. They also have access to all the career support and advising after graduation as well. The 8,000 student clubs, many of these clubs exist within our colleges, and many of them are professionally oriented. Now, we don't just send them out and say, hey, wade through these 8,000 clubs, these 30,000 internships. We really do help them focus and narrow down based on their interests and skills and values. One of the things that does make MSU a little bit different is the absolutely insane, sometimes it does feel very busy, 30 career fairs every year where we have hundreds of employers at each career fair. And that's something that does make us a national leader. But I have to say, don't tell all my other career colleagues, some of my favorite events are our smaller ones. We'll have employers in the hallway between classes. We'll bring them to visit classes, or we'll bring maybe 5 employers together who are focused on a certain interest area, and students can have informal conversations where they don't need to get in a suit and shake hands, especially right now. We're not doing that, of course, but the sheer number of employer partners we have is phenomenal. And so many of those employer partners are alumni too, which really strengthens that connection. The career treks, the alumni visits, we're either bringing alumni here, we're taking students to visit alums at work or to visit different organizations. We do that through programs like Study Away and Study Abroad. Dan, the number of opportunities are endless. Do you want to add anything here?
Sure, yeah, thanks, Allie. And this one really touches on a lot of different initiatives that we're working on, but we, in terms of what Allie had said, and there's a question in the chat about having what employers come to career fairs. It runs the gamut from, multinational companies with thousands of employees from around the world and the country to major employers, for-profit, not-for-profit, public organizations, nationwide, statewide, and locally. So it runs from small startups locally to huge multinational corporations in those career fairs. But what I do also appreciate is the intensive focus that we have on smaller scale endeavors that we'll do on the road. For example, those career tracks, taking students to alumni, to employers in Detroit, in Grand Rapids, in Chicago, in New York, and also our international and domestic experiential learning opportunities with Study Abroad and Study Away that overlap with not just this intercultural and global learning, but also building those professional and personal networks with students and alums in various locations around the world. So we're both colleges above average on sending students abroad. So we're very proud of that and could talk about that, I'm sure, for the full hour. But I know we're short on time, so I wanted to make sure we can hand that over for any questions if we have time for that, LaDonna and Rugi, or to hand it over to you all to see where we are with any other curiosities from folks about careers and hands-on experiential learning.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ali and Dan. I'll tell you, that was great information. And what's great is that you really did answer a lot of the questions that we had coming in from those that registered. And so thank you for being so thorough in what you shared with us. We do want to address a question that is in the Q&A right now. Historically, what were the greatest challenges MSU freshmen encountered, and how did MSU help freshmen address those challenges? We'll actually have a couple different people respond to that question from different perspectives. First, I would love for Cindy Walter, who was an advisor in the College of Arts and Letters, to speak just a bit about her experience with our freshman students.
Thank you, LaDonna. Hello, everyone. I'm Cindy Walter. I happen to be an advisor in the Linguistics and Languages Department, which is part of the College of Arts and Letters. But I'm going to speak on behalf of all my colleagues today. I think I found over my years that probably the biggest challenge is that transition from high school academic expectations to college expectations. And then also finding where you fit in on the college campus. Like, we all need to get that connection, and it can come in many different ways. So just from an advisor perspective, the great thing about both of these colleges is the students will have the same advisor probably throughout their four-year career with us. We're small enough that we can do that. So I'm the only advisor in my department, so I know all of my students, and that's true of all of our departments between our colleges. And the great thing about that is when I meet the students at orientation, or if they contact me prior to arriving, right away I can start to find out what are their priorities for their experience at MSU, what are their academic goals, what are their personal goals, and then we can start really working together then for the next 4 years, making sure they get connected to opportunities, resources when they need it. Our class size is small, so they get to know our faculty. Our faculty will know them by their name, which can be good and it can be challenging. You can't really hide in class because they know when you're not there. But that really helps, I think, with that transition, is getting those personal connections. I always tell my students, Michigan State's a really big place, but in our college, it's going to feel like a small school. So you have all the resources of this big school, but at the same time, you walk down the hall in our building and you're going to see professors that know you by the first name. And a lot of our professors want to be called by their first name. So it's really personal as far as connections. Throughout the year, advisors are continually communicating with students about opportunities, important dates, don't forget type of emails. And when there is a concern, the wonderful thing we have is an alert system. So our faculty, if a student's not showing up to class, or is exhibiting maybe some stressful behavior, or for whatever reason they have a concern, there's a little electronic form they fill out, and that alerts the student's advisor that they're concerned, or maybe the student didn't do so great on their first test. And it's our early warning system that then the advisor can do that personal reach out to check in with the student and see if there's resources they need or support they need. And that was implemented several years ago, and it's one of my favorite things that we do, because that way I know if there might be a particular concern, if I need to give some direct attention to the student and invite them to come talk with me. So that I'll stop there to give the others the opportunity to share their thoughts.
Well, I think I'm the other lucky one. I was mentioning, as someone who sees students in high school before they're coming to MSU and then get there, I think one thing we've all noticed across our kind of colleges is that mental health issue and being more prevalent in students, and students being more vocal about mental health struggles. And so one thing that MSU has done in this last year, which has been really helpful, and we've seen that the difference it can make, is they've started putting mental health counselors within the dorm areas for students. So just about every dorm had someone coming in on a regular weekly basis, and students could just drop in. So it was eliminating that stigma of, oh, I have to go somewhere, or I have to fill out a more formal form, or kind of takes away that initial step of having to take that big step and going to their building or going online, where it was in the space students were every day. It was informal. They could meet with that professional. And from there, that professional could either just say, yeah, let's keep having this conversation informally, or, you know what, let's refer you and let's actually start a process here that can help alleviate some of these stresses and whatever those may be. And we were seeing students in our building at least take advantage of that on a weekly basis. Other students were too. Just a really great response from MSU to help that overarching mental health issue we were seeing, and all universities are seeing with their students, especially in that first year.
And also, I would just add to that, part of the work that we do as well with our students, and we really take advantage of new student orientation, because that is when they initially get to meet their advisor. They have the opportunity to meet lots of current students in our colleges. They also have the opportunity to engage with faculty. And so something that we do, and then I do see the question in the chat, what will freshman orientation look like this year? Freshman orientation, it will be virtual, completely online, but what I love about both of our colleges is that it's important for us that we make sure that we have engaging experiences for our students. And so what that means is that you are going to feel connected with those that you engage with over the summer. So we will have students in the virtual spaces with you. We will have faculty and staff in the virtual spaces with you. And you will know that we care about your student success from beginning to end. And so the NSO experience, again, although it will be virtual, I can guarantee you that your student will leave knowing that they're valued here at Michigan State University and in our colleges. And so the other thing that we also do, before we move on from that question, did anyone else want to chime in? Because I feel like that's an important question, and I want to be sure that everyone is heard on that. No? Okay, Ruby?
Yeah, there was another question in the box just about students planning their first year classes. And again, regardless of the major you are, that's a great question to ask. As advisors, and Cindy can definitely speak to this too, I do this as well as an advisor. We get to meet with students before they actually set foot on campus in the fall through orientation. So it'll be virtual, of course, but we get to have those meaningful conversations. We get to ask, what are you interested in? Besides this major you've indicated, have there been other passions that you've always thought about? Are there areas you want to explore? We also take the time to explain, well, what does general education requirements mean? And do you really have to do those all in your first 2 years? And how do you work through your major? And what are some things to consider? Like, when do you want to study abroad? What about internships? And we know students may not have answers to those. And if they're like me and a first generation student, some of those wording won't even make sense. So as advisors, we're really working with them, but we'll do that in the summer. They'll know what their classes are before they get to the fall. We do plan a whole year at a time as well. And the spring semester can change, absolutely, but it gives them an idea and the ability to envision a whole year and think about how it's starting to form together. And every time we meet, or at least when I meet with students, we go back and we say, okay, what have you knocked off already? What boxes are checked? What's left? And what's our plan to get there now? So as you're thinking about how do they plan their first year, especially if it's the first one in the family to be going through that, they're going to have that one-to-one guidance. They're going to have us as available, even beyond that one-time meeting. We meet with students multiple times, even if it's, hey, I'm thinking about switching this class, or I also want to explore this area. We're happy to meet with students. So I hope you can rest assured that we will be meeting with them prior to them arriving. They will know what their whole year will look like just about, and they can start kind of that planning process and come back and ask questions anytime they have them. I think, again, there's been lots of questions in the question inbox coming, which is great. We'll keep going through and answering those as we can. With Dan and Allie's piece answering the careers, the deans being able to talk about our programs and the university responses. We're also seeing a lot of questions about housing that were coming in. So hopefully folks have seen those as a piece of it coming through. But with those parts of it, there was one question in the housing just about finding roommates and things in the plan. I don't know, Amanda, I thought that was a great question. I know it's in the answer box, but if you want to jump on it and kind of talk about what the roommate system will be and how people can find roommates and all those types of things, because those are some questions we were getting with the registration as well.
Yeah, absolutely. As I navigate my mute and unmute buttons here. Yeah, so roommate is going to be a little bit different this year, right? So COVID has tended to push everything back a little bit. On top of that, because why not? We actually switched vendors for our roommate matching program. So we have a brand new roommate matching program. It's coming through on April 19th. It's called My College Roomie, and we're going to be sending out an email next week to your MSU email accounts as to how to access that system and what it's like. And it's essentially go on, you fill out a profile. Are you an early bird or a night owl? Do you like long walks along the red cedar? Are you more into theater, that kind of stuff? And you actually get matched up with other students who are looking to live in similar areas as you. So it's kind of an exciting program. So with that, will be able to use the roommate matching program after April 19th. Then beyond that, we need you to sign your housing contract by May 31st. And signing your contract by May 31st lets us know that you're coming and to hold a spot for you, but it also enters you into our sign up pool. So that way you get access to our sign up system when it's actually your turn. The way that it'll work is throughout the month of June that sign up system will send you an email and you'll have 24 hours to go into the system to select your room and or pull in your roommate if you have a preference. If you don't have a preference, we'll assign you a roommate. It's completely fine. But essentially you get a 24-hour window to go in and pick your exact room, very similar to how you pick a seat on an airplane. One of the questions that was in the chat was, where do Arca or Cal students tend to reside? And Arca students reside in either Snyder or Phillips Hall. It's part of that living, learning, community, residential college component, but Cal students can typically live wherever there's space available. And so that's something to look at too, if that's what you're interested in, kind of check out all the different neighborhoods that you might be interested in living when you come onto campus. Did you want me to go through the couple of other questions that we got?
Yeah, I saw them popped up about housing placements and things. Like now's the time. Is any?
Yeah. No, it totally works out. So some of the questions that came in earlier, if a student would like to request a specific hall to live in, what does that process look like? And essentially what will happen is you get 24 hours access to our sign up system. You get to drill down into the buildings by the floor, pick one if you want to overlook the red cedar or be closer to the bus stop and things like that. And you'll be able to pick from available spaces. So the thing is if you don't choose in that 24-hour window, the housing assignments office will assign you to an open space. So no need to worry about not getting housing at that point. It just means that we'll go ahead and assign you to a space that's available based off of the preferences that you gave us. The next question was, is a freshman allowed to have a car on campus in their first year? And the answer to this is no, but I would also like to state, as an employee who has to drive my vehicle on campus every day to do my job, it is not worth the hassle. It is not worth the headache. Having a parking pass on campus traditionally just guarantees you a right to fight for a spot, in my opinion. And so as an incoming freshman, that's not something that you necessarily need to be worried about. So we do not allow incoming freshmen to have vehicles on campus. Now, that being said, if you're nervous about transportation options, it's already kind of been mentioned, but we're a pedestrian-friendly campus. We have a huge bike-friendly campus with lots of bike trails and lanes set up across campus. We're moped-friendly, and our bus system is not only free to students for on-campus routes, but that runs the entirety of the school year. So on days when it's raining or days that you just, don't feel like walking to class kind of deal, you can hop on the bus as a student for free, which is really kind of nice. The next question was, if a student requests preferred housing, is that request affected by whether or not the student pre-selects a roommate? So you'll actually select your housing and then pull your roommate into that space. I will tell you, just from nature of the draw, if you are going in with a roommate, you're going to need to find a room that's completely open. And while there are plenty of rooms that are completely open, there are far less completely open rooms than there are with rooms who may already have an occupant in them, whether that's from other students who have signed up for space or returning students who are coming back on campus this year in the space. So if you have a roommate and you go in with your roommate request, there's going to be less space available to you when you're looking at your sign up system. So if it seems like there are fewer options, it's because it's looking for an open room with 2 people. If you happen to be going in by yourself without a roommate request, you're going to see a lot more options because there are going to be a lot more individual spaces within the housing system themselves. So as I mentioned, Arca students live in Snyder-Phillips, and Snyder-Phillips, because of that, when you log into the system, you're only going to see available spaces in Snyder-Phillips. So that's kind of important to remember too. So while you pick a seat on an airplane, right, you have to pick from the size of your airplane, and Snyder-Phillips students, their airplane is the size of Snyder-Phillips and Arca. And then the last question that I kind of wanted to go over, and this one was in the chat, was can a freshman get their own private dorm? And traditionally, no. So it's a huge transition coming onto campus. And so we prefer that all incoming freshmen have a roommate. And the only exceptions that we usually make for that is if there's a medical need. So most of our students live in what's called a double room, a room that's built for 2 that houses 2 students. There are a couple areas on campus with our suite style halls where it's 4 students. They're split into 2 rooms and they share a conjoining bathroom, almost like a Jack and Jill style. And then there's one hall on campus where it's 4 students in 1 room, and that room is subdivided into 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, and a living room. So that's kind of the spaces that we have available on campus.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
Thanks, Amanda. That was a lot of information, we know,
Yeah.
and we know there's a lot of other questions coming in about housing as well. We want to be respectful of folks' time, so we're going to show you some information about what's next, but please stay on with us because we will also come back and keep answering these questions as long as we need to, but we know some folks have to leave and schedules are busy, so we want to make sure you have the what's next after today's event, and then we will come back and keep answering these questions for you all. So if we don't mind putting up that last slide there with the kind of what's next for folks.
All right, so thank you, Rugi. What's next? First thing, deposit, right? So to secure your spot at MSU in our programs, submitting your committed deposit is your first step, most important step if you haven't already done so. And you can do that through your Spartan portal. Please keep in mind that May 1st is that deposit deadline date.
And select your major. Now, this question actually came up in the chat as well. Specifically, we knew some of you today might not be in the College in Arts and Letters or in Arca program yet, or you might be trying to decide what major is best for you. So you still have time to either switch your major into one of our programs or within our program. So if you're looking for a program in Cal, I think Terence was going to post in the chat the link to the account where you can actually use the change your major function. But you can go in there and pick any of the major inside of the College in Arts and Letters. If you're interested in Arca, or the Residential College in the Arts and Humanities, we only have 1 major. So you would want to choose Arts and Humanities as your major to ensure that you have a spot in our program. Once you do that, you get the benefit of housing in Snyder-Phillips, right? Taking our classes, being in our living, learning community. There's no extra steps, even though we're a residential college, we go by first come, first serve. And so definitely switching your major is important. Again, we are Arts and Humanities, and within Cal, there's lots of other major options. You want to be sure to choose one of those.
And then finally, stay connected with us. And so I do want to tell you about an event that we are having in the College of Arts and Letters that's happening tomorrow, actually. That event is at 4 p.m. And I will place the link in the chat so that you and or your student can register for that event. It's a virtual visit day. And basically what's going to happen on tomorrow for about an hour and a half, we'll spend time together talking more in detail about our college. We will have faculty in the room with us. We will also have current Cal students that are excited to talk to future students in the room with us as well. And so it's just a great time to connect, to learn more about the college, to learn more detailed information about the major that your student is interested in. And so again, that is tomorrow at 4 p.m. and I will put that link in the chat if you want to register for that.
And we have one as well. I just put it in the chat. We have our current student panel coming up next week at 7 p.m. This is going to be a great panel because they're going to not only be able to tell you about their experiences, but also talk about some really cool spaces we have in our building. We have our very own language and media center, which is filled with technology galore and resources for students. And these students in that panel actually work very closely with that. They'll also be talking about our art studio, the theater, our language, or excuse me, our study spaces. So they're living in our hall and can show you all of those spaces, or at least talk with you about those spaces. So if you want to meet some current MSU students, if you want to meet our students, definitely a great event to sign up for. So I still see questions rolling into that. So we'll kind of go through and start facilitating those out to folks. Again, we know some of you have to leave, so we wanted to be sure you had that kind of what's next. We will get the recording to everyone. Terence and his team in admissions is actually going to be posting the videos from these events right on the page where you would have found the listing of all of these. And of course, LaDonna and I can follow up and send that link out once we know where those are as well. So definitely look for that. Come back to this video, pause and stop and rewatch as many times as you need for sure. But stay connected with us, LaDonna or myself. We'll definitely follow up with you after these events so you have our contact information as well and an open email at least going between us. So with that, just looking at some of the questions, we'll kind of start just dividing them out if you think that's okay, LaDonna. If you have any piece. So LaDonna, do you have some more information about orientation in terms of dates or times that students?
Mm-hmm. So I see in here, what are the scheduled dates for orientation? So the way NSO is working, again, it is virtual. And what will happen is your student will have access to certain modules and information related to orientation in May. Around mid-May, May 17th is when they'll get access to all of that information. Now, as far as their specific advising appointments, when they will meet with their advisor, talk about scheduling, and also meet with other current students in our college, that will happen beginning June 7th. And so from June 7th until about July 31st, that's when we will be in that orientation process where students will be enrolling in classes. But again, in mid-May, is when you'll start to have access so that you can begin to work through the different modules, just about all of the things you need to know, housing and financial aid. And if you want to change your major, because that is an option. If you decide after going through some of those modules and looking at the content for different colleges, if you decide that, you know, I said I wanted to be theater, but maybe I want to do theater, but also film studies. And so, you know, there's the option to make some adjustments with your major choices during that time as well.
Great. I saw there was another question kind of about parking. You know, I'm not sure if Amanda has the answer to this about parking spaces outside of campus that students use, or kind of that going to and from home if they need to on the weekends or whenever that might be.
Yes, so there are options off campus for parking, but MSU obviously can't endorse any of those just because they're not secure, they're not patrolled, they're not anything like that. There are options for students to apply for parking exceptions through the police website, so you're more than welcome to do that, but the chances of that being approved are very, very slim. I will say we do have a zip car program on campus, in which students can actually borrow a car and head out different places. On top of that, through their Facebook groups, between their floors and their buildings, there's a lot of rideshare and carpool opportunities that happen as well. So you might not have your physical car with you, but there are plenty of options to get to and from home.
I think that's the best part, right? We really become those communities. And someone mentioned community within communities. How many times as an advisor, I'm sitting there and the students are in the library talking about, oh, I'm going here, or breaks coming up. How do we all want to coordinate this? And you see them coming together. And I think that's one of the more fun parts of just that college experience, right? Is finding those those kind of partnerships amongst your peers, but also just being together, especially after this COVID piece, right? And of course, in this next year that still may look slightly different, so being respectful of that, but knowing that those experiences will come.
Yeah, I see another question in the chat. And actually, Cindy, would you like to talk a bit about how you talk with your students about where they should live on campus as a major in the College of Arts and Letters? And if it matters where they live?
You know, students don't generally ask me where to live. I mean, it's not a question I get, to be frank. So I'm not sure how they're making their decisions and choices. For my particular department, we're right in the center of campus. So pretty much it's the same distance from most of the neighborhoods, which is how we define our areas of housing that kind of surround our campus. So I guess it really just depends on, the student and, when they look at their different options, what seems to be a good fit for them. Sorry, I can't be more specific, but really my students are just represent all parts of campus. And I've certainly not had them tell me that they're unhappy with what they've chosen. That's not something I hear from students, but I think they do a lot of information sharing between themselves when they're making a decision, because they're gonna, respect their peers and upper class students, probably their opinions most of all.
And it's all about the best cafeteria too, right? So
Yes,
regardless of how close it is, that's the important thing, right?
Yes.
Well, we've seen lots of folks have to go, which again, we completely understand. We want to thank Dean Long and Dean Esquith, Dan and Allie, Amanda, Terence, Cindy, and everyone who's played a role in this. We hope the event has been helpful. We hope you feel a little more comfortable with not only coming to MSU, but sending that student here. We're definitely going to hang around as questions come in, so feel free to. But this is that formal goodbye. Welcome to the Spartan family for those who are deposited already, and for those who are making that decision. If there's any other questions, please reach out to us. We're more than happy to meet with you virtually beyond this event. So. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.